Major League Fishing Cups are back and available on MyOutdoorTV.
Here we go.
Start your free trial on MOTV.com to enjoy new episodes of Major League Fishing Cups now. Use promo code YT30.
I love going to some place that I've never been before.
What is it that could spark something in your mind that says, that looks fun?
Get in the boat.
You have to keep trying different things throughout the day.
These are the guys that have went to places that they've never seen before and got it done.
That's a big one. Please let him stay. Get in here. Yeah! Oh, look at that big old bass.
Now we're talking.
We're on to something.
Yes, yeah.
General Tire's Major League Fishing. Over 1,100 miles separated the arenas of this season's first two Cup events. And through 12 rounds of vigorous competition, 2 champions emerged. With no practice and no information about where they would be fishing, these pros had to push their skills and instincts to new heights.
Woo! Dude, that's a pretty one right there.
Today, 8 Major League Fishing pros will walk you through their most successful rounds and show you the strategies they use to conquer the competition. Let's meet the top performers from the 2021 Challenge Cup. He was the winner of Elimination Round 1, Takahiro Omori. Elimination Round 2 winner, Ott DeFoe. Winner of Elimination Round 3 and Sudden Death Round 2, Greg Hackney. And the Lucas Oil Challenge Cup champion, Edwin Evers. Lake Poygan and Lake Winnacunnet set the stage for Elimination Round 1, and it didn't take long for the pros to start stacking the score tracker with quality bass.
How about that?
Takahiro Omori quickly realized things were getting out of hand and decided to gamble his time to find the juice. After building up a commanding lead, Tak was untouchable for all 3 periods and weighed in 41 pounds of bass to earn the win. It all started with one key decision.
Here you go.
Let's join Tak and see how he crushed the competition in this Berkeley Major League lesson.
As you know, I was with Major League Fishing Cup since day one, so I believe this is my 20th cup. As usual, you know, we don't know where we're going, so my expectation about fishing is unknown. Just be open mind. You can see the lake. They have a lot of docks, a lot of lily pads, a bunch of grass, shadow, riprap back here. But I always have my basic technique, tackle I fish for. You know, I fish the way I know I'm good at it, and I practice to train myself to learn how to do that no matter what place we're going to. I came just far farther than anybody, you know. See, water is pretty off color. It's not the crystal clear. Water temperature is 61, which is pretty cold. About 5 minutes we started, I caught my first fish on small square bill crankbait. Then my second fish, I caught on small jig, pitching to the laydown tree.
2 pounds, 9 ounces.
Thank you. It's on a jig. But I don't feel like that's the best stuff in the whole lake. And one thing that's in my mind right now is boat dogs. A lot of boat dogs, you know, in this lake looks like might be a key. You know, I'm out here. I don't like here. No grass. I'm gonna run 5 miles. So I'm run about 10 minutes halfway back to the middle of the lake, then fish a little bit. I don't feel good about it, so I move one more time. So my second move, that's why I start catching really good. So I was fishing boat docks because it had a big piling. I guess the lake was a little down. Yeah, I came back here because I saw the grass out here, so just skipping vibrating jig to those piling or shade. So most of the bird dogs up here, so it's like a temporary dog. But some of the dogs is permanent dog, got a big wood piling. So they have those wood piling big dogs, got a more place to fish to hide, I guess. So it seems like in the area you have those two different types of dogs. Those permanent dogs with big wood piling dogs. Seems like got more fish on it. Easy fish.
2 pounds, 14 ounces.
Thank you. There you go. The bait I was throwing was just green pumpkin, braided jig, either half ounce or 3/8 ounce with 16 pound. Usually fluorocarbon line is less stretch, a little bit stiffer, so I can have a good hook set. Or I see a lip wrap type like lock point. I threw chartreuse like a square bill crankbait. And you know, if I see some lay down tree between, I pitch small, you know, jig like a brown and orange. 90% of the fish I caught on a vibrating jig. So my braided jig, whatever my fast moving bait, as usual, I have high-speed gear bait casting here. Mine is like 9-to-1 gear ratio, so it's pretty fast. So I was just, you know, middle speed. I don't think as soon as they see my bait, they come to get it. That's why I like fishing Monday. Fresh fish, you know. They're gonna find me, I don't have to work for them. You know, like I said, the fish against this group of guy, you know, anytime you beat those guys to be able to go the next round, I'm really excited about it. You know, this is why I wake up early to go out there, I guess. I'm really thankful to have this opportunity to fish against these guys. Because these guys best, I mean, no joke, you know. If you're in it, you know.
General Tire's Major League Fishing is brought to you by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. Lucas Oil. Keep that engine alive. B&W Trailer Hitches. Towing adventure. Yeti. Built for the wild. Sonic. This is how we Sonic. And by Kubota. Together, we do more.
In Elimination Round 2, 10 of the top Bass Pro Tour anglers began their journey to the Challenge Cup Trophy on Lake Poygan and Lake Winnacunnet. Brent Chapman got off to a fast start and looked set to cruise into an easy win. But in period 3, Ott DeFoe clued in to where the bass were set up and lit up the score tracker to finish with a first-place victory.
Just keep plucking them out of there.
Now, Ott will explain his winning pattern in this Bass Pro Shops Major League lesson.
Man, these events are kind of, I've done enough of them. I don't get anxious about them anymore. I've got a system that works for me with the way my tackle's organized, when I do my prep work, all that kind of stuff. So it's worked pretty good for me in a lot of them, and just going to keep that momentum moving.
Never been here before. Totally new experience for me. And that's the way I like it.
That 30-minute ride-through we got, immediately, you know, everybody blast off, then fired up that Mercury and run up to where that river came in. And there was kind of a chute that I took going into it, good current flowing out of that.
I really like this river up here. It's windy, it's got a lot of wood, a lot of grass, a lot of cover, a lot of stuff in here to fish. I think I'm gonna go back out to the mouth. There's a couple places out there where it kind of dumped out I really like the looks of. Gonna fish some of that and probably end up working my way up in here to start with.
I was really drawn to that mouth. The mouth of that river dumped into the lake. So there was a little bit of riprap up real shallow on this bank, and it was just deep enough to float the boat beyond that, and a little bit of scattered grass. and I picked up a buzz bait, just a white buzz bait, start going down the edge of this rock. Don't go far at all, and I catch my first one, a nice, chunky, largemouth, a good scoreable fish. I think it was almost 2 pounds. And that very first fish was an indication of just how healthy every fish I would end up catching throughout the day would be. Work on up, get back kind of into the river a little bit again. Then there's just a little patch of grass out, in like this much water. And I flip that bull hog out there on a 3/8 ounce weight, just in some of that scattered grass. And it sinks, hits the bottom, and it gets smacked. Chunker.
4 pounds, 3 ounces.
Look at that one. Dude, that's a pretty one right there. Look at the spot on her. That fish ain't 18 inches long, a 4-pounder. Dude, that is a beautiful, beautiful fish. Bass Pro River bug. I'm feeling really good about where I'm at and the quality of fish that are in here. And I ease on up the river looking for more stuff like that, and I don't catch anything, and don't catch anything, and don't catch anything. So finally, an hour and a half or so after that, I come back, go right through the same stretch again, get about where I caught that first one, and I catch another one. Same exact stretch where I caught my first one and missed one earlier. And having come back through that same area and then getting another bite, that gave me a really good indication that this is an area deal. It may not be the same bait, but I really got to hunker down, fish this area, fish it back and forth, in and out, through this area, different baits, and it's really gonna pay off. My line was going against the current. I'm like, well, I know that's a bite. I love to fish current. That's if there's current in a system and I can find it, that's where I'm going. And they're not really relating to the log, they're relating more to the current edge, that kind of seam or break or
2
something.
2 pounds, 0 ounces.
They're relating more to that. It's really more about the current break. The thing with current, it's just a theory on it, but it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if it's cloudy, if it's sunny. The current positions the fish 100% of the time. They're going to be facing into the current, so I already know what direction they're looking. And I know that they're going to use a piece of cover or some type of something to create an eddy for them to sit in. They're not just going to be suspended out in the middle of the water column. If they're around a target and I can see the target, I know where the fish are going to be. So that's why I love to fish current, is because it positions those fish in a place where it makes them predictable. Just have to talk about them. It seemed to be a deal where I needed to fish slow. I need to be fishing some type of plastic, whether that was flipping and punching or just kind of sitting back and casting that worm and stuff. But it definitely seemed like I needed to keep those slow-moving baits in my hand. In this particular little area, there was a lot of vegetation. That's what the majority of my fish probably came out of, was some type of vegetation. That'll work. For the matted up stuff, I was flipping a Bass Pro Bull Hog either on a 3/8 ounce weight or a 5/8 ounce weight, punching down into that stuff. I'd use the lighter weight when I was just kind of flipping around stuff out on the edges. But that bigger weight was definitely a big player for me, actually getting down in some of those thicker matted up stuff. And any of that stuff that I fished varied from about that deep to about 3.5 or 4 feet was probably the deepest fish that I caught. And the worm is what I used it on the edges of the grass, some of the sparse stuff around the wood, and then also where it did make those little breaks, where there was some type of hard piece of cover out there under the water that those fish were using as well. But that worm was a Bass Pro Magnum Finesse worm, like a purple-brown color, and I just had it Texas rigged with a 3/16 ounce tungsten weight. Had that on 14-pound XPS fluorocarbon line, another Johnny Morse Platinum rod and reel, 7/1 medium heavy action rod, and an 8:3-to-1 gear ratio reel. There's another one. With the flipping rig where I was punching or just pitching around those outside edges, I would drop that bait in there, feed it slack line, and some of the bites would come on that initial drop. But a lot of bites, especially as the day went on, I'd actually kind of bounce the bait, bounce it 3 or 4 or 5 times in place, and then you'd actually feel one pick it up. So I don't know if it was the pressure of just having fished through this area several times, it was getting to them a little bit. But it was definitely a mix of the bites that would come on the initial drop versus, you know, hopping that bait in place a little bit. So that was something that I definitely started doing more as the day went on. And once I knew there were a lot of fish in this area. The same exact hole. Solid day. I mean, that's what I love about this format. I love going to some place that I've never been before and seeing water for the first time and then going out there and really trying to break it down. When you do have the best day on the water against this group of guys, to win any time in this is pretty special. Just keep plucking them out of there.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. In Elimination Round 3, Greg Hackney was up against a field of young guns and was one of the few anglers that had never fished Lake Poygan or Lake Winnacana. The veteran tapped into his instincts and found several key areas that were full of Wisconsin largemouth.
Yes, yes, yes.
Greg hacked the competition, catching over 30 pounds of bass to win the day and advance to the sudden death round. Now, the shallow water specialist will share his secrets in this Yeti Major League lesson.
When I got there, all the other guys were like, oh yeah, this is such and such. I'll be honest with you, at this point right now, I don't even know what the name of the lake was. And several of the guys were like, yeah, you know, we practiced here, you know, before the Winnebago tournament, and I was like, I'd never seen it before. The positive to that is I have a completely open mind. So when you practice somewhere, you have a tendency to mark stuff off. And so that would have been a year before at a different time of the year, and you'd have a tendency to say, well, that's not good, that's not good, that's not good. This is the area of the lake that had them, but because we were in the fall, things could be different. So it was probably an advantage. I didn't know that at the time that I had never been on the lake before. The deepest water in the lake was like 9 feet. Typically, big shallow lakes like that are harder to break down than deep lakes because deep lakes take stuff out of play, and shallow lakes, nothing is out of play. Typically, shallow lakes are about an area. It's not necessarily about a pattern. More times than not, it's about an area. I shut down out in the lake, you know, it's like 3 foot deep, 500 yards off the bank. Looking at the water temperature about 64 degrees, cooler water temperature. These fish, will, you know, in theory, you know, they'd be pretty aggressive, but you know, the first hour, I didn't catch anything. Score tracker's not moving real fast. You know, when it's not moving very fast, it allows me to be methodical. So I had noticed these little canals, and I caught them in those canals, or some at Winnebago. And I was like, you know what, that's a good place to get started. I pick up a rage bug. I got it rigged up on a 5/16 ounce slip stinker, my 7.6 Hack Attack flipping stick, and I pitch in there on it. And the cool thing about this is you idle over that foot of water. When you get in these places, you know, they're actually dug canals. It's basically what they are. As soon as we get in it, I catch my first scoreable bass. And then literally re-rig my rage bug, stand back up, I'm going down a seawall, pitch in, pick up, fish coming to the boat, nice 2 pound plus bass.
I like it that they fat, you know? I like them little fat ones.
I fished that canal out. I caught 4 out of it.
Fat as they are, it don't take much fish to weigh 2 pounds here.
So when we leave, I find a big one behind this island. Looks good on the map. And again, I cannot stress how shallow this lake is. When I get to that island, it actually looks like there might be some fishing behind the island in the mouth of it. It's like a little patch of pads. So we run on down, I go in there, I get in there. It's big, so I'm thinking, there's potential here for there to be a lot of bass. It's got mats, it's got duckweed over the mats, grass, matted grass out to 5 foot of water. So the only drawback to that is there's so much cover in there, I have to be really thorough, so I can't cover water very fast. And so I was rigged, my flipping sticks, I had 2 of them rigged up. I had one with a 5/16 and one with a 1/2 ounce. And so the first couple canals I went in, where the cover was sparse, I just fished the 5/16 weight with a rage bug. And then when we got to where it was a little bit thicker, I was going to 1/2. But this particular canal had thick stuff in it. So I had another one of my flipping sticks rigged up, and I had braid on it, and I was fishing 20 and 25 on my other 2 flipping sticks, and I had braid because I had a 1 ounce weight.
Got me a scoreable.
But I was a little disappointed. I pretty much burnt that. Well, I did. I fished the entire period in there.
Get in here.
And I only was able to boat 5 scoreable bass out of there.
Come on, baby, stay hooked up. Get in here, get in here. Finally caught me one out there in the deep, in that abyss, about 4 foot.
It was just so much cover. And one thing that I noticed in that canal, similar to others, there was a point after probably about 100 yards in the mouth of, regardless of how far and how great the cover was, it was really hard to get bit past the first 100 yards.
I mean, at the fish, you know, there's so much fishy stuff, like where the bites have come from, the ones I caught. There's not one everywhere, but I about have to fish everything. You know, you can't skip anything because that's where that one would be.
But I'm still in 4th place after the 2nd period. You know, we go back, then we get to eat lunch. You know, that's our lunch break is the next time. You know, it's so cool that we get those breaks during this deal. And I had to retie some stuff, you know, retie some hooks, whatever. And so now I'm pretty giddy, you know, going into that 3rd period, because now I'm like, all I need to do is maintain.
At this period, I want 7 or 8 bites, not 5.
So then I just, you know, I'm gonna run a new one. And the next one we pulled in, I knew when we pulled in it, I said, if they are in this canal, I will win this event in this canal. Because the deal was, it wasn't that long or whatever, but it was deep. And that first 50-yard stretch of it was a target-rich environment. It had grass, it had a couple overhanging willow trees. I mean, it is sweet.
Yes.
I always feel like if you don't know what color to use, just use green pumpkin. It'll catch them in dirty water, clear water, it doesn't matter. But I was using a green pumpkin rage bug. I rigged it 3 ways, all on a 5/0 hook. I had it rigged on a 5/16, a 1/2 ounce, and a 1 ounce. And basically how I choose which weight I would use would be what the cover was. You know, so basically the rod and reel combo I used, even though I had it rigged, you know, with 3 different weight sizes, I used the same rod and reel combo. So the reel I used today was a Lew's Pro TI, regardless of line size and, you know, if it was braid or fluorocarbon. And rod, I used a 711 and a 7.6 Hack Attack Tour Series from Lew's. So now I'm 12 ounces from the lead with 15 minutes left. And I said, well, it's gonna be kind of gutsy, but it's the end of the day. I got 1 shot to win. We need to get in a fresh place. We leave there, I run. So when we get to it, instead of even trying to idle in it, I just jack that Atlas jack plate as high as it'll go, trim that Mercury as high as it'll go, and balls to the wall. And then there we go. So I blow through that mud. I don't know if we can get out, but we're gonna get in there.
We may not make it. I was like, I was scared to run any farther in there than that.
I look down the bank, and about 20, 30 yards down the bank. Now, I'm fishing everything, but I'm fishing pretty quick. There's 1 tree. If there's one in there, he's on that tree.
Winter chicken dinner.
I knew as soon as I picked up, it's welded to the bottom. I said, there he is.
Lines out, end of round. we heroes if we pulled that off.
It was very rewarding, you know, to take that chance. And you know, luckily, I was still able to get out of there after it was over with without getting my feet wet.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. Sudden Death Round 2 was a race to 22 pounds, where only 4 of the 9 anglers would advance to the championship round. After winning his elimination round, Greg Hackney hit the waters of Lake Butamort full of confidence. By using the knowledge he learned on Lake Poygan and Lake Winnacunnet, Hackney rifled past the competition and hit the target weight in the first period. Woo! The Hack Attack is here to show you how he punched his ticket to the championship round in this Lucas Oil Major League Lesson.
You know, honestly, I guess I was probably as laid back today of any sudden death round I've ever been in. You know, because I won my first round, and so I felt like I had an idea. It's gonna be airish out here on this pond today. 40s and the wind's blowing.
I say it must be blowing 10 to 15.
So in the first round, you know, I basically caught all my fish in man-made canals off of that lake. And so you always, if there's any chance possible, you know, when you're doing well a certain way, if you can make that work. So these two lakes are connected. The watercolor's similar, so we picked this one to start in. The water's extremely shallow in the mouth, some good wood, it looked good, some grass, some lily pads. And man, the water was shallow. And there was, right as I went in, there was another ditch mouth that came out, had a bunch of logs, some duckweed blown up. And it looked good, but it was just really shallow water. So I actually picked up a swim jig. Right before we got to where it gets deeper at, I fired that swim jig in the mouth of that other ditch. And I mean, I would have thought it was a 3-pounder.
Air bass. I mean, I freaking sailed him out of there.
I start flipping, and you know, I start looking for that same deal. So really the key deal for me was, if you could find an inside grass line. Now the water won't be but 10 to 12 inches deep, but a lot of those fish wanted to sit between the bank and where the grass started, and then the grass is a mat and it comes out to about 5 feet. That I noticed that a lot of this mat was so thick that a ½ ounce weight wouldn't get to it, so I get over there to those limbs in the water, and it's like an open canopy. It looks matted, because it's solid duckweed, but it's just a thin layer of duckweed, so that weight goes right through. First flip in there, I catch one. Rig me another rage bug, stand up, flip about 3 foot over. I catch the second one on back-to-back flips.
Slight touch.
You know, now my confidence just went through the roof. You know, because now I'm like, man, I'm back catching the way I was. There's a lot of area in here. It's deep. You know, chances are there'll be more.
You know, I had a bite or two the other day, like out deeper in the grass, you know, but most of them were that same way. There's like a little inside grass line, that water sucked down, and it opened just a little gap up there in about 10 inches or a foot, and they just kind of seem like that's, you know, some of them want to be up there.
We moved up to where I could see a big log. I mean, now I'm just, this place is fishy. And you know, basically the deal is I have lit down on the right place. And I'm feeling that now, because I've already caught more fish in 10 minutes out of this canal than any of the other canals I fished the first time. And it's a lot bigger, and it's deep. So I ease up to that next log. I think I catch 3 there. So I do think the fall feed has already started. Honestly, the way these fish look, they are so healthy, I feel like the fall feed may have started a month ago, because these fish didn't put on this type of body weight in the last week. You know, I mean, they've been eating.
A little chub under all that slime.
These fish do not want to come to the surface. I think these cold nights, you know, it was 41 last night. I think that's making them in the morning time set low. Even under that mat out there in 3 or 4 feet of water, they get it on the bottom. Anytime you're flipping mats like that, you want that bait to completely free fall. You never want to control it. You can control it when you hop it. When it goes in there that first time to get that reaction bite, you want that bait to free fall.
I'd come back over here, you know, and just keep them honest.
And I'm a line watcher, and I'm watching the line, it just goes down, stops on the bottom. Then when I pick up, they got it. So it makes me think either they're getting it just as I start to lift, or after it hit the bottom, which means they're on the bottom. They're not chasing it down. They can catch it. Right now, really the only way I can get to them is flipping, you know, and you know, getting that bait and the strike zone. Again, they bite well, but it seems like the strike zone is small, and it has to be pinpoint. Some of that mat was so thick I couldn't get the ½ ounce weight through it, and so I'm like, it's getting to the point I need to get my big rod out. So I got my other flipping stick rigged with a 1 ounce.
Yeah, so on this deal, I got a bigger hook, and that's actually a 711 Super Duty rod. Now, the other ones all came off my flipping stick, but when I go to a 1 ounce to a 2 ounce weight, I like that rod. It's all I do with it, but it's good for this.
So I had an hour left to fish, and I had 18 pounds. And so I went down a little farther, and again, now I'm needing 4 pounds even at this time to go out. So I cut straight across. And right in front of this boat dock, just as soon as we cut across, is a big algae mat, which just they're like beacons when you're flipping mats. I cannot explain this. You catch them a lot of times in straight grass, and I caught some today that way. But something about when that algae starts growing on a grass bed, it just really makes a fish want to be there. And it could be the point where maybe it's cooler in hot weather and warmer in cold weather. I don't know. I flip in there, I hopped it about 2 times.
Come back and got it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That sucker spit it out and come back and got it. I shook it a little bit.
So now I need 1 pound and 14 ounces to go out. I got 25 minutes to catch 1 bass. I'm confident. I got 50 yards of mat. I'm gonna get that last one.
That's him. That's him, maybe. Ain't him. What I need, 114? I swear he's gonna be 113. 1 pound, 15 ounces. Woo! That'll be the quickest I've ever went out in sudden death.
You know, basically I used the same technique or a similar technique in this round than I did the first one, using my Lew's Greg Hackney Signature Series flipping stick and a Lew's Pro TI reel. My dominant bait the last couple days has been a rage bug. I've caught 99% of the fish I weighed in both rounds, and I alternated a couple different green pumpkin flavors. Now, one thing today I did change up. The water was a little darker in the area, so I changed, and on my punch rig, I used a California crawl rodent, which everybody knows is my favorite go-to flipping bait.
So I've been a professional bass angler now for right at 20 years. The competition level in Major League Fishing as a whole, the Bass Pro Tour, is the best it has ever been. It just all in all, any time you get a chance to beat this bunch, you know, it's definitely a feather in your cap.
First anger out.
Remember that sound?
MyOutdoorTV is your home for every exciting moment of the 2022 MLF season. Boom! Every episode, including live events.
Yes, sir!
Try it free at MyOutdoorTV.com. Use promo code YT30.
General Tire's Major League Fishing is brought to you by Berkeley, your fish, our science. Wiley X Eyewear, go confidently. Mercury Marine, go boldly. Favorite Fishing, the future of fishing. And by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Lake Winnebago was the battleground for the championship round of the Lucas Oil Challenge Cup, where the final 8 anglers fought tooth and nail to claim the title, but only one would be crowned champion. As period 1 began, Edwin Evers, Mike McClelland, and Michael Neal started charging their way up the score tracker. But Evers soon pulled away from the pack, raking in close to 20 pounds of bass by the end of period 1. The Oklahoma native was untouchable for all 3 periods and tallied his total weight to nearly 40 pounds to win his 3rd Challenge Cup title. Now, the 3-time Challenge Cup champ will walk us through his impressive win in this General Tire Major League lesson.
Never in 100 years did I dream we would go to Winnebago. I mean, my heart started beating hard, like when we pull into that parking lot, because I'd love to go to Winnebago. I know a lot of guys don't like it, but I know what swims in Winnebago. I've had one of the all-time best fishing days of my life on Winnebago. It's a big lake. I mean, you can't see across this thing, how big it is. This is the zone that we get to fish. Basically 48 miles of shoreline, if you were to follow all that, 23,000 acres of water. But you know, for me, I wanted to fish either the south end or the whole eastern side. That's the part of Winnebago that I know the best. Well, all that I said about this lake, it's not in this zone. Every place I wanted to fish. And there ain't not even one little bit of it. I didn't learn a lot in ride around. I didn't like say, oh, wow, this is where I'm gonna fish. I kind of already had an idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach it. I took about 10, 15 minutes to fish a couple offshore points with grass, just really quick. But I was working my way up to, you know, a stretch of docks that were on a point, and told my boat official, I was like, this dock right here is a really good one. That's a good one. That is a good one. Golly, it's a big one. Oh, gotcha. Yes, yes, yes. That's how we get it started right there, boys and girls. Look at that one. 3-0. It's a chunker. Yes. I caught everything on just a Berkeley Max Scent 4-inch General. Started off with black, and then I went to green pumpkin. It didn't really matter. It's important to let that bait fall on slack line, you know, that way it can fall like it's supposed to. You know, I've got a big bow in my line, but you have that, you just got to check it every now and then, make sure one is not swimming off with it. It's a good one. I would spend a lot of time on the docks. You know, I would start super shallow and just work my way out. And I would try to stay back off of it, skip it up there, and let it sink. The fish were not active, in my opinion, at all. I mean, you'd had to let it go to the bottom, pick it up, let it go to the bottom. There was a few bites that on the initial sink, like you normally would get with a weightless General like that. You know, I would just really pay attention to the direction I felt like the current was going, and I'd really pay attention to the shade. And, you know, I'd try to approach the dock where I could throw through it and not have too many obstacles to be able to reel those fish back through. Let's not go through there. Gosh, dang it.
2 pounds, 3 ounces.
2, 3, huh? I think I end up with maybe like 19 pounds by the end of that first period. So, you know, the dock pattern on the points was going to work. And I just was hoping I'd be able to find enough of it to last the next 2 rounds, because really in that stretch of lake, there's not a lot of that for that pattern. Well, it started off good. We just got to keep it going. So we go into the second period, and I noticed a couple people peel off to the left where I caught those fish on those docks. So I run all the way to the south boundary, and I'm just going to try to duplicate that pattern and run it back. One of these has got to have some fish on it. I fish, and I finally get to a good-looking point that had docks on it. Finally. Stay on there, fish. Man, that was a long time to get that bite. Stay on there, baby. Oh, it's barely hooked. Barely hooked. Got her, though. And I catch 3 or 4 really nice fish, you know, all really close to 3 pounds. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Check that out, though. Is that not the coolest thing ever? Man, guys, that's like one of the most awesome bass I've ever caught. How beautiful. I like to use a 6'9" medium action Bass Pro Platinum rod. It's a short that I can make those underhand skips. I've got it on the Bass Pro Platinum reel. You know, it's a 6-to-1 gear ratio reel, so fairly high speed. I've got it rigged with 15-pound XPS braid and like I said, 10-pound fluorocarbon. That Max Scent bait is amazing. I just, from what I've seen there at Spirit Lake and the aquariums and all the studies they do with it, I mean, look at my weight today. It's a testimony to what I caught. I mean, it was pretty cool. That stuff's the deal. Man, I can't tell you how excited I am. These things are so hard to win. Oh my goodness. Yes, what a day. You don't ever know. I mean, heck, you don't know what tomorrow holds. You don't know when your last day is. So, you know, I'm just happy that I won another one.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. 30 of the top performers from the 2020 Bass Pro Tour ventured to the Lone Star State of Texas for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Heritage Cup.
Oh my gosh.
From trophy-sized bass to last-minute comebacks, 6 intense rounds of competition led to an unforgettable championship victory. Let's meet the winners from each round before they reveal the techniques they used to catch bass in Texas, like a Major League Fishing pro.
Yeah.
He was the winner of Elimination Round 1, Chris Lane. Elimination Round 3 winner, Anthony Gagliardi. Sudden Death Round 1 winner, Randy Howell. He checked out first in Sudden Death Round 2, the W, Wesley Strader. Elimination Round 2 winner, and the Academy Sports and Outdoors Heritage Cup champion, Ott DeFoe. It was a slow start for Chris Lane, who struggled to get things going in elimination round 1. But after dropping an 8-pound giant on the scales, he knew exactly how and where to lure the lunkers on Belton Lake. Lane weighed in over 34 pounds of bass to win the day and advance to the sudden death round.
Place has got some hogs.
Now, Chris Lane will show you how to find big bass in the fall in this Lucas Oil Major League lesson.
What really sparked me about looking at the map, there wasn't any big creeks. There was nothing that kind of all looked the same. So I knew that going into it, if I could find a pattern, then you more than likely could run that throughout the entire lake. Water's got a little bit of stain to it, so when you get that in lakes like this, a lot of the times your topwater bite will be really, really good this time of year. And I don't normally do this, but I really use that 30-minute ride around to kind of look at the lake, because it all looked the same, but I wanted to make sure that the north end didn't have big submerged trees and vegetation up in it, and I found none of that. So it was kind of like, man, work as hard as you can to try to find a pattern. From what I can see of the watercolor, I mean, these fish are gonna be shallow. I started up in a creek where it was slick calm, and the muddy was stained upriver, so it was kind of like a crankbait or a spinnerbait was a good choice. We'll just catch that one right there. It's too small anyway. I just started running down the lake and fishing that. Funny though, I might not have on the right size bait because I might need a bigger one. I'm gonna put on a bigger one real quick. You know, the crankbait was significant from making that adjustment from the smaller bait to the bigger crankbait and actually get those fish to eat it. You know they were aggressive. You know this time of year they're wanting to feed on big balls of shad or big brim. So a bigger bait a lot of the times is the key. For here, switch the bait and he's got both of them in it. Yeah, I like what I see. I just changed up and went to a little bit bigger bait.
1 pound, 9 ounces.
Okay. So after I learned that the bigger crankbait would actually catch the fish, I thought to myself, as the day progresses, you know, plopper's not gonna be too big to throw because they wanted the bigger crankbait. And I picked that plopper up and, you know, I caught like 1.5 pounds. Just do this all day, and I'll probably put that bigger one on in the third period, I think. Like, man, you know, I just started running the rocks. Anywhere where you got big rocks sticking out in the water, that's the way it's been all day. It's the way it's been with crankbait, same thing, water, rocks in the water. The wind's starting to pick up, and that's playing a big key to what I'm doing. I had missed a couple. I didn't miss them. They just missed the bait that were probably 3 or 4 pounds. So I knew that the size was there to eat the plopper. It's just, could you get them to actually eat the bait? Lo and behold, whoosh. Oh my God, dude. It's a freaking giant. No, no, one hook, one hook. Ow, woo! Pow, baby! Yes, sir! And that's the one that I was like, I know what I'm doing the rest of the day. Look at the size of that.
8 pounds, 1 ounce.
Damn! 8-pounder. Just choked it. Yes, sir. I was excited. I was fired up because I knew that if I could get one more bite like that, then it's gonna be good. So that was kind of what I was set out to do, was to go enjoy that last period. I start the third period, boats are running out, and I'm not gonna go far. I'm just gonna start fishing. Obviously, the size is in that lake, the conditions are set up. You know, the fall is one of the best times to throw topwater. My favorite time of year to throw it, and because the fish are really aggressive, and the big ones bite at that time of year because they're trying to get their last meals before they have to go deep and down there in the wintertime. So that could be a 3 or 4 pounder sitting right there. Just waiting to ambush this thing. And then that big rock, oh my gosh! More bigger. There she is. The conditions set up right. The watercolor was perfect for a plopper in topwater. It wasn't super clear, but it had a little bit of stain. So you know those fish that are, they're not way down. You're not gonna catch them on like a really deep crankbait, at least I didn't think so. Just like that.
5 pounds, 2 ounces.
Pow, baby! Man, been waiting on this all year to get these kind of bites and these kind of explosions. Makes you think you really know what you're doing sometimes. The most important thing about throwing a plopper, and especially in a situation like this, was finding out where the fish would actually eat the bait. You can get blow-ups all the time, and you can have them jump all over it, but the key with it is to make sure the right speed, the right depth where you're throwing it, and in this case, these fish, they wanted it shallow, and that's where they would actually eat the bait instead of just blow up on it. Yes, sir, baby! Pow!
6 pounds, 2 ounces.
6'2", baby! So when it comes to throwing a plopper, my key setup is either a 7'3", 7'4", just depending. Bass Pro Shops rod and reel, 8-3-1 gear ratio, 50-pound Bass Pro Shops line. Braided line is the key because you're making really long casts. One of the things about this bait, if they're on it, it's gonna be a great day. When you have that opportunity, take advantage of it. One of the places where I love to throw this bait is by the rocks, kind of like what we were fishing today. That one will do it right there. That's old Biggie, old big boy. How about this one, Wheeler? Maybe? Pow, baby! So the reason I picked bone was because that's just one of my favorite colors to throw. That color and that bait, it's just dynamite for me, especially in the mid part of the country. Now, sometimes when I go up north, I'll throw a black one, but most of the time, bone is the color.
4 pounds, 4 ounces.
There you go.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. Mental toughness was tested in Elimination Round 2 as 10 professional anglers faced tough conditions in their quest to finish in the top 6. The bass were elusive, and the bites did not come easy. Although it was a grind from start to finish, Ott DeFoe triggered the bass into biting with an unconventional technique that shot him straight to the top.
Just enough time.
Now, Ott will show you how to fish outside the box in this B&W Trailer Hitches Major League lesson.
Having no information and no practice, I love this format. I don't always thrive in it, but I truly love it and embrace it. Just to back the boat in the water and a pretty unknown fishery for me anywhere we go across the country in these cup events, and just go figure it out.
Water's like 75, but that should be a good thing because it's hopefully got the fish to, start feeding a little bit. So I want to do some feeding, and then we're going to go fishing.
Once we say go, I'm headed as far up the lake as I can get. There is one creek arm up there that looks like a good-sized creek. Run up there and kind of ease my way around, ease into it, and find honestly what I'm looking for. I wanted to find some off-colored water, wanted to find some shallow cover, and I wanted to find some bait fish.
Well, in most places you go in the fall, you're dealing with a fairly limited amount of cover. A lot of times the lakes are a little low, there's no shortage here.
We're about an hour and a half into the pier, and only a couple people, 3 or 4 maybe, have caught fish. And I've seen it at times where those fish just don't fire very first thing, that they want the sun to get up a little bit and really pull the bait fish to the top.
Well, that wasn't the worst period I've ever had, but it was one cast short of it.
I'm like, man, it's still kind of mid-morning. There's shade on some of the banks and stuff where the sun's not straight up and down yet. I'm like, I'm just gonna I'm gonna try to run some short pockets. Looking at the map, there's a lot of little small pockets on this end of the lake.
I've got just a buzzing style toad on here. Something I can cover a lot of water with. The water's warm. It's fairly clean down here. But then the fish feeding on bluegill, that's where they should be. Start down through there, and I'm on a real steep bank. I mean, I can touch the bank and I'm in 15 feet of water. And I go down through there fishing these little shade lines and stuff and get to the bank, fire cast right dead in the back in the middle. Now, I could do this all day long. Let me tell you, I caught one. I don't know what this means yet, but I caught one. Well, there's another pocket right around the corner. Let's go in there. Fire up, run into that pocket, going in there, catch another scorbel. So now I fish 2 pockets with a toad, green pumpkin, buzzing toad on the surface, and I've caught 2 scorbel bass. You know, a toad style bait like this is totally weedless, and so most people just automatically place it as being, you know, strictly like a grass bait. Put this thing on a hook and throw it anywhere. You know, you do get to a piece of cover, you can throw it right in the middle of it, but if you're just going down the bank, it works fine for that too. It's all in all a pretty high percentage bait.
I'm throwing a green pumpkin color, a very natural color, just a standard buzzing frog. I'm fishing on 50-pound test braided line, a Johnny Morse Bass Pro Platinum rod, 7-1 medium heavy action, and a fast reel. This is an 8-3-1 Platinum reel, because like I said, I'm bringing that thing pretty quick down the bank, plus standing on the trolling motor on like 6 or 7 on speed. So I'm going 2 miles an hour, but I'm bringing my bait back to me like 2 miles an hour too. So you've got to really make up that difference with that fast reel. The deal with that toad, it's nice because it's a soft plastic bait. So when that fish eats it, it's not like he's eating a walking bait or something else that's really hard that he's going to crunch onto it and immediately blow it back out. This is soft bait. He's going to suck it in. You've got time to set the hook. You need to take that time as well, if at all possible. It's not very easy to do, especially when you have fish that, like a couple of mine did, that ate it 3 feet from the boat.
That's what you call her out at the boat, smallmouth.
What I'm looking for are pockets that are short. You know, I mean, 100 yards deep or so maybe would be okay, but I don't want a creek arm. I'm looking truly for a main lake pocket. If the pocket was steep, had some shade or not, but any kind of wood cover, anything in the water at all, those were the kind of pockets. I was going to get a scoreable bite in every single steep pocket that I'd fish from there on.
Look. Dude, this pocket's got some fish in it. It's a big old smallmouth. Look at that one trying to get it out of his mouth.
Goes against like everything you read as a bass fisherman, you know, that you need to slow down, you know, really try to coax those fish into biting.
3 pounds, 2 ounces.
3 pound smallmouth on a toad, back of a pocket, middle of the day, the sun's shining straight down.
The reason why it's working though, and I had no idea that this would be going on at the start of the day, but the reason it's working is that these fish are running in wolf packs a lot.
I hope you got that one on film.
I kind of thought that it may happen some. You see it a lot, like post-spawn. Those fish will be up there around brim and that kind of thing, but you'll see it again early in the fall where those fish will just kind of cruise in packs down the bank, looking either for a ball of shad or a group of bluegills, something that they can ambush right up on the shoreline, extremely shallow water, and that's exactly what these fish are doing right now.
There's some big uns with it. I mean, big uns.
But I actually rigged up something else in that third period, and that was a little 1/8 ounce buzzbait with a 3-inch Bass Pro Speed Shad on the back of it. A very small, very compact thing, but I can throw this thing a country mile on a spinning rod, and it just is a little different look than what that toad is. Something a little bit more of a bait fish kind of profile.
Similar presentation, and it's a steady retrieve and pretty fast, but just a slightly different look, going back through the same water.
And when I switched to that, I honestly think it was probably better than what the toad was. I really went to catching a lot of fish on that.
Add another one to that. If I can get him in here.
Once again, another elimination round, able to move into sudden death. But now listen, 7 sudden deaths in a row, not that I'm keeping count, and I've not made a championship. So to say I'm more than ready to make a championship would be an understatement. Steep pockets, covering the water, top water baits, made for a really, really fun day.
MyOutdoorTV is your home for every exciting moment of the 2022 MLF season. Boom! Every episode, including live events.
Yes, sir!
Try it free at MyOutdoorTV.com. Use promo code YT30.
General Tire's Major League Fishing is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. Squincher, hydration that works. Sig Sauer, never settle. Waco Convention and Visitors Bureau, Waco, the heart of Texas. And by Toyota, let's go places.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. Anthony Gagliardi is no stranger to fishing clear water. And after a few laps around Belton Lake, he formulated a game plan and went to work. By the end of period 1, the South Carolina pro had zeroed in on what the bass would bite and continued expanding his pattern to earn a first-place finish in elimination round 3.
3.5 pound smallmouth, boys.
Let's find out how he matched the hatch in this Berkeley Major League lesson.
I had not heard of it. We'd showed up at Belton Lake and no idea what kind of fish lived there, you know, what it would look like. It was just, I mean, really like a highland reservoir, which I liked it. I really did. You know, I thought just looking at the lake, I like the way it looks, and maybe it'll be something that'll suit me. I'm hoping maybe we can find some fish schooling. I mean, it's the type of conditions where that should be going on. So that's what we're going to look for here starting off, and hopefully we'll get on the spot and start things off with a bang. If I go somewhere that I don't know, the first thing I'll do is try to look for feeding fish. You know, that's my favorite way to catch fish in the first place. It's an easy way to catch fish on a body of water that you're unfamiliar with. And if you can find an area that has some schooling fish or just some shad activity, just something, you know, a visible clue. Do I want to start and fish, you know, in the back of some of these places or start more out on the main lake? You know, the water's temperature was still pretty warm. So these fish could still be kind of close to a summertime pattern still, so they may not be pushed back up into these places. Yeah, I caught my first keeper, moved into first place. There had been a couple fish caught prior to that, but I caught like a 1/8 maybe, and it moved me into first. And where I caught the fish didn't really teach me anything, and it wasn't until later in that period before I really figured it out. So I went through a period where I didn't catch any fish after that because I was looking for that same kind of thing, you know, places back in a cove or back in a pocket. And then I finally got my second bite, you know, sometime thereafter, and he was a little bit farther out. It was a little bit farther out toward the main lake, and so I started to go with that theme and fish a little bit closer out, and then things started to click, and I started to get some bites.
We have 2 pounds, 11 ounces.
Nice. That's the ones that we're trying to go after right here. The first 4, you know, that I weighed in, I caught on a Berkeley bottom hopper, just on a 3/16 ounce head. You know, nothing special. You know, green pumpkin, Berkeley bottom hopper. Man, we almost left the cast before that because I've not had any bites like out closer to the main lake. And now we just caught our biggest one out here, so that kind of changes that theory that they're all back in those little pockets. You know, close to the mouths of those little cuts off the main river. You know, if I felt like it needed to be off the main river, it needed to be like a 45-degree slope bank or something like that with just some bigger rock that were out off the shoreline. And when I found that, or whenever I just came across it as I was fishing, it seemed like that's where I would get my bites. So that's kind of where I tried to focus. The bottom hopper, like I said earlier, it's been good to me. And I'm throwing this is the 4.75, and I don't often throw the small one like that. I don't know what it is about it. I know this, obviously the power bait scent is good, but they just like it. There's something about it, the way it falls or the way it does something, they like it better than most I've ever fished. Yeah, the bottom hopper, green pumpkin, I mean, that's just, you know, when you don't know what the best color is, you throw a green pumpkin. At least that's what I do. And I feel like no matter where you go, no matter what color the water is you're fishing, green pumpkin always is gonna be able to get bites. You know, I was fishing it more like similar to the way a lot of people would a Ned rig. Like, I felt like those fish were gonna bite this bait on the fall. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time working it back to the boat. You know, I would kind of cast it up into that 4 to 5 foot depth range off the bank just a little bit, and let it hit the bottom, and I'd pick up on it, and I wouldn't fish it far. I'd fish it maybe 3, 4, 5 feet back to the boat, then I'd wind it in, and I make another cast. Most of your bites are gonna come on the fall. You're gonna pick up on it, he's gonna be on it, and he's gonna be swimming off with it. And so that's the way, especially if I'm in search mode, that's the way that I fish that bait. Obviously, it was working to a certain extent. I still didn't have a whole lot of confidence doing that, for that to carry me throughout the rest of the day. Luckily, at the end, right there at the end of the first period, I picked up a jerkbait, and I caught a smallmouth.
A little smiley, Texas. Maybe the first smallmouth I've ever caught in the state of Texas. I'm sure it is.
Right then and there, just catching the actual smallmouth was kind of a clue, because I had no idea that there was smallmouth in this body of water. That kind of intrigues me a little bit, catching that smallmouth on that little jerkbait. Is there more smallmouth in here, or did I catch the only one that lives in this lake? In the first period, I wasn't sure. All right, so the last 2 fish I've caught have basically been smallmouth. They're obviously here. There obviously must be a decent population of them, and it gave me more confidence just to continue with what I was doing.
Yeah, keep them coming. That's all. Doesn't matter for spot, smallmouth, largemouth. We just need pounds and ounces.
I keep my color selections with all my baits pretty simple. The jerk baits fall into that category. It was just something shad. It was overcast. The more overcast, the darker it is, the lighter I like to go. More white. This time of year, it's a quick cadence, and I use a spinning rod, sometimes, especially if I'm throwing a small jerkbait, which I was, and then also I threw a little bit larger one on a casting rod later and caught some good fish on that as well. But I grew up in a lake that had clear water. I live on Lake Murray. I grew up fishing Lake Murray, and I love sight fishing. That was always my passion. When I went out, whether or not the fish were during a spawn or not, I like to visibly see them, and so I really learned, how to fish clear water. I learned to enjoy fishing clear water. So when we get to these events, I'm gonna seek the clear water first. The more bites that I got, the more I learned. What I felt like I needed to be looking for was something on the main river, or just inside the point, going into a cove. But I felt like it needed to have about 20 foot of water or so, 18 to, maybe a little bit over 20, just based on where I was liking to position my boat. And I wanted something that was a little bit bluffy, something that had some depth right on the bank, like a bluff, but at the same time, the best places and almost the only places that I would get my bites is where there would be pieces of the bluff that broke off. The wind was crucial, I think, for that jerkbait bite. Sometimes you can still catch fish on a jerkbait if it's cloudy, and if it's cold, sometimes you catch them when it's calm and sunny. It depends, but this time of year when the water temperatures are warm, jerkbaits tend to not work if it's not windy.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
The best feeling in the world is when you're fishing a tournament, you know that what you're throwing is the bait you need to be throwing. You're not second guessing yourself. I knew I was in the right area, and I knew I had a bait in my hand that was gonna give me the opportunity to get the bites that I needed to, and that's a great feeling as a fisherman.
There we go. 3.5 pound smallmouth, boys.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. The anglers in Sudden Death Round 1 faced tough conditions in their pursuit of the 14-pound target weight. Jeff Sprague and Randy Howell led the charge on Lake Waco and steadily made their way up the score tracker.
It was worth the trip to the back.
But as Sprague started to stall,
there he is, big one.
Randy Howell kicked it into overdrive to be the first angler to hit the target weight.
Done.
Randy Howell is here to guide you through his path to the championship round in this General Tire Major League Lesson.
I had all my tackle rigged up pretty good. I'm big on preparation and being really efficient with my time management, so I had about 24 rod and reel combos rigged up, so about everything that I could possibly have to try on this lake, I had it rigged and ready to go. All right, here we go. 30-minute Mercury ride through. Let's see what Lake Waco looks like. When the Mercury ride through started with 30 minutes, I took off, zoomed the Lowrance in, and I noticed saw some stained water. First lake, Belton the other day, I caught them in dirty water. A few fish early on top water, and then spinnerbait later as the sun got up. And so I thought I'm gonna try the same pattern, same style of water, a lot of wood, a lot of bait fish, and that was where I decided to start. First cast, sudden death, 14 pounds. There we go. Let's do that. Well, the first stretch I get on right off the bat, I mean, throwing top water a little bit, and probably in the first 10, 15 minutes or so, one jumps on it. There you go. It's a small pound and something keeper, but it got me on the board on Score Tracker. I felt good about that, and I had another 3/4 of a mile of shoreline that looked perfect. It had shade, it had bait fish, wood, everything I needed, so I had a lot of confidence working down that bank. This late summer, early fall, you want to always utilize the shade as long as you can in the morning. If you can keep that sun out of your water for just a little longer, try to keep that top water bite active for a little longer. And pretty quickly on down there, I get a huge blow up. Good. Got him. Oh, Lord. Got him. Yes, Lord. Oh, what a bite. Yeah, then as the sun started going up, I threw top water a while. I only had those 2 bites on it, and it kind of got me on the board. And now I pick up my little Finesse spinnerbait, which I caught him on at Belton the first day. And every time I would bump a piece of wood, and that bait would ricochet off that wood, and you'd see the little fry, the little shad fry, scatter around that wood. And that was the key on the first round. And every time I would see that, I knew I was in the right area. There he is. Oh, gosh, Lee. Oh, that was a close call right there. When you get in these timber field areas with all this cover and stumps, you know, the spinnerbait is still an old school weapon that you can be efficient with, and you can put that bait, that reaction bait, in that strike zone without hanging it up. He hit it on the back side of that tree. That's good, though. That's a spinnerbait bite right there in a slick calm. We're in Texas. We hadn't quite gotten into fall yet. It's still pretty hot. Water temperature's 77, 78 degrees, and the fish are not really out deep good, and they're not really up shallow good, but those first stragglers, as I call them, they're starting to come in and follow the bait fish into these little creeks and pockets. So that's a pattern that I look for in the late summer, early fall. And the key to that pattern being successful, first of all, is finding stained water. So I ride around in that Mercury ride through and I look for dirty water. Once I find the color I want and I see the bait fish, that's the 2 things you gotta have. You gotta have dirty water and some bait fish present, flickering around. That's why I chose a small spinnerbait with real small blades, something that was still big enough and heavy enough to make accurate casts with, yet small enough to trigger that reaction strike from those real lethargic fish. We'll take that. 1.7, not big, but man, what a good one. Had that feeling to come back down this bank. In the fall, you always remember, if you catch a fish on a bank in the fall, there's always more there. This is a little 5/8 ounce Finesse type spinnerbait. It's a small body, small frame, and it's got a little turtle shell blade. A turtle shell blade is kind of a mixture between a willow leaf and a Colorado. I like that because it has the flash like a willow leaf, but it also has more vibration like a Colorado. So that's an in-between type blade. It's small. Then you got the little Colorado leading here at the front end, and so it gives off a good vibration. It's just the right size that you can still cast it. The key to not using too small of a bait is being able to cast it accurately and get it up under trees and around the lay downs and such, and then crawling it down that cover and having it slow enough that the fish are able to react to it when you bounce off those limbs and stuff. So it's just a nice little compact chartreuse and white with a little bit of blue. This is a standard bait that you want to always have in your tackle box anytime you go anywhere in the early fall, because this bait will always catch fish when it's tough to make them bite. Let me get right there. Oh, we might go out with this one, boys. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sudden death is such an intense round. I was so excited to get off the lake 2 hours early, and really it's a confidence booster when you got 8 of the best anglers in the world fishing against you, and I can at least say today I beat those guys.
My heart's right there, up in my throat.
Welcome back to Major League Lessons. With over 4,800 surface acres of water to choose from, Wesley Strader wasted no time in sudden death round 2 as he navigated Lake Waco in search of 14 pounds of bass. After finding an area that was holding fish, the W utilized his knowledge of fall fishing and was the first angler to reach the target weight and advance to the championship round.
We out.
Let's join Strader as he breaks down his winning pattern in this Wiley X Major League Lesson.
Well, we're in the water.
It was so dark this morning you couldn't really see the lay of the land, what the topography was, whether it was rock, wood. But I did notice the water was higher, and a few of the boats have lights on the back of them that shine down into the water under the transom. And I did notice that I couldn't see their lower units or their cavitation plates on the Mercuries.
I mean, look, that's cheating. You can just pull up on your starting spot and have the fish come up.
I didn't know if the water was muddy or if it was just that old green tint that it gets to it. I fished Conroe and places like that in October, and it gets this weird, funky green tint. Kind of had an idea of what I was going to do anyway. My game plan was, I said, you know what, I caught them kind of on rocks at the first round on Belton. So I just went and rode the lake and marked every patch of rocks next to deeper water. Looked like there's a couple of fish on it, too. As I was making my ride around, I went by this one area, and there was just birds standing everywhere, and I thought, well, if those birds are there, I counted like 10 birds, 9 or 10 birds just in one little area. So I knew the shad were closer to the bank there, and usually when you've got, a predator like that of those birds, usually the other predators that live under the water are there with them.
Lines in, beginning period 1.
Started there where all those birds were. It really looked good. There was a lot of wood in the water, and I thought, man, there's so much wood in the lake. I thought that was going to be the primary source of cover. So, I went probably fished that for about 30 minutes, and I caught one, like a 13-ouncer. That's the only one I caught. He might make it down there. And then I said, all right, I'm gonna go do what I said I was gonna do. I'm gonna go run the rocks. So I ran the rocks. I hit 3 patches of rocks, and I looked at my boat official, my camera guy, said, I'm gonna hit 1 more patch of rocks, and if I don't get a bite, I'm done. I pulled up on the last stretch of rocks that I intended to hit, and I caught a 2.5 pretty much right off the bat. There we go. And then I caught a 1-something. I caught another poundfish, and I'm basically just running riprap on the main channel. They're right on the bank too. I mean, like right on the bank. That's where the other marina was that I marked. I said, I probably should go back and go down that bank again. I said, but I'm already in here in this marina. My general rule of thumb is when you have big marinas, those fish live in those marinas their whole life. They never go anywhere else. They just live under the marinas. They can eat bluegill, they can eat shad, they can eat shiners, they can go to the bank and eat crawfish. So they have everything that they need right there in the marinas. This is probably one of my favorite things to do. I've done real good at Lake Conroe, places like that when that water's this color, this time of year. I skip my vibrating jig under a dock and good. Whatever it is, it's a good one. It's a freaking bass. Whoa. Then I knew I had it figured out. That's when I was like, all right. Go. For some reason here in Texas, it's all about those pontoons, those airlifts. They're pontoons that they pump air into and let air out of to raise their boats up and down out of the water. This should be a bite right here. The bigger the marina, the harder it is to figure out where they're at. There's certain stretches in the marinas that will have fish and certain stretches that won't. There's always, like I always say, there's a pattern within a pattern. Sometimes it's the blue floats, sometimes it's the black floats, sometimes it's the white floats. It's just figuring out, you know, what part of that marina has that key piece of cover that's holding the bass. That's a good one. Stay there, baby. That might do it. I think I needed 3.5 to go out, and I caught a 2.14. So now I'm 5, well, actually I was 5 ounces shy of going out. It's a good period. We'll see what happens. Thought I was gonna go out in the first period, but I didn't. But I had a good clue of where to start at and what to do in the second period. I knew that I could catch another one out from under the marina. That was not even a doubt in my mind that I could do that. I go down the bank and I get to just a little old piece of grass sticking, you know, viney grass sticking out off the bank, and I catch a 15-ouncer.
15 ounces.
Are you serious? There wasn't a doubt in my mind that I was gonna catch another one and go out. It was just, you know, I tried to do something a little different, you know, thinking that that bank would produce another fish, but it didn't. So should have went straight to the marina, but I didn't. And nobody had caught one and caught it with me, so I wasn't really stressed out about it. He'd probably be right up here behind this dock. I'll catch him, don't worry. That's the great thing about Score Tracker. You can listen who's catching them, who ain't catching them. So I just relaxed and just, you know, tried to make as good a cast as I could, you know, letting that luge reel do the best job that it could do with the operator that was doing it. Wish there was some way to get behind them suckers. I've been stalled out before and missed it, you know, be leading the whole pack by a lot and not catch a fish for 2 periods. There he is, that's a keeper. That'll do it right there. That'll do it.
1 pound, 6 ounces. Congratulations.
Man, it feels so good to get that pressure off your back. In the fall, that's all you need right there. 2 baits in the fall. This is actually just a 3/8 ounce vibrating jig. It's kind of got a shad pattern. I like a little bit of chartreuse in it for this time of year because you got thread fin shad. They got a little hint of chartreuse on their backs and on the ends of their tail. Just the standard little crawl trailer. This is a pearl white crawl trailer. I actually pulled the legs off the side of it so it didn't grab too much water when I was skipping it underneath the marina. And the other bait was just a 1/4 ounce buzz bait with a gold anodized blade. Just put a black toad on the back of it. Also, the thing with that toad is it gives it weight, so when a fish comes up and bites the bait, the weight helps the bait to get down into the fish's mouth. I'm headed to championship round, looking forward to it. Kind of just excited about where they're gonna take us next, because it's always something different. Best fish in the world. We out.
General Tire's Major League Fishing is brought to you by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. Mossy Oak. Hunt. Fish. Repeat. Abu Garcia. Fish to win. Optima Batteries. The ultimate power source. And by Barbasol Shaving Cream and Razors. A close, comfortable shave for the past 100 years.
The championship round of the Heritage Cup showcased a powerful group of anglers that led to one of the tightest finishes in Major League Fishing history.
Oh my God!
Ott DeFoe arrived at Lake Whitney with the hopes of applying the momentum and knowledge he gained from his first 2 rounds. Brent Ayler was the clear leader in period 1, but Ott uncovered a school and started loading the scales with scoreable bass. Ott's confidence grew until Jeff Sprague and Greg Hackney answered with their own Score Tracker updates. It was a nail-biter until the final minutes, but Ott's hard work paid off as he defended his lead by just 1 pound 5 ounces and earned his first Heritage Cup trophy. Now, the Heritage Cup champion will walk you through his fight for the title in this Toyota Major League lesson.
I've won several rounds of Major League Fishing and cups. I've made championships, won a Bass Pro Tour event in 2020, won a classic. I've won a lot of different stuff. I've had a very, very blessed career, but I've not won a cup yet. These are extremely hard events to win.
Try to find us a honey hole. Take our pole to the honey hole.
Lake Whitney is the only lake in this area I'd ever had any experience on. And didn't take long and score tracker started popping, man. The guy started catching them. So I go into a pocket and pick up my toad.
Come here, Hoppy Toad. Let's be friends again.
You know, really going back to kind of what worked at Belton, and like first or second pocket of fish, boom, I catch one.
Yeah, let's be friends again.
And so it started clicking pretty quick from there that this is gonna be really, really similar to Belton.
There. Number 2 on the board. Right on a little rocky ledge there. It's 2 on a toad though. Could be the development of a pattern again.
Steep pockets, short pockets are better. And you know, it's gotta be steep, have chunk rock. If it's got some wood, good. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal, but you definitely gotta have that steep, chunky rock banks is where those bass are relating to.
That's exactly why I got that out. That was on a wacky worm. It was a fish that missed my toad. I had just got this out saying that I needed to have me a follow-up bait for just that reason.
Man, I knew what I was gonna do at that point. I was gonna have the toad on the deck. I was gonna have my little buzz bait out. I was gonna have a wacky worm. I knew I needed those 3, you know, to really have out on the deck is what was gonna be in my rotation.
It's fun throwing this. I throw it on a spinning rod. It's the only time I ever throw a buzz bait on a spinning rod, but it's small, it's lightweight. I could throw it on a bait caster, but man, it just works so good on a spinning rod. 10-pound Bass Pro Hyper Braid. I've got a 12-pound XPS fluorocarbon leader, 7-1 medium platinum rod. I can make a long cast out there and buzz it back.
They're late into the first period. I'd come out on a main lake point, honestly, throwing my toad, and a fish just comes up, just slurps it.
Big old headed sucker. That fish just come up there and just slurped that thing in.
3 pounds, 15 ounces.
That's all that thing weighs. Look at that. That thing should be at least a 5-pounder. Big old headed thing.
I was really relieved at that point because now I've caught a good fish doing what I've been doing and really feel like this is a way I'll be able to ride out the rest of the day.
Maybe I just put it in my hand and I just stand on the trolling motor and fish everything that gets in my way.
So many times in these cup events, we're fishing different lakes. We fished Lake Belton in the first round. We fished Lake Waco, you know, in Sudden Death. And then now we're on Lake Whitney. But it's not that often that you fish different lakes that you really have patterns that go from one lake to the other. It's not something you see a lot of times in Major League Fishing, but it's working at this point, and I'm just going to keep riding as long as I can.
Get yourself in here.
Period 2 come out, and man, I really came out swinging pretty good there.
There was 2 of them right there together. Of course, the smaller one got it, but there was 2 of them. Dude, that fish totally caught me off guard. I mean, completely caught me off guard.
With those 3, it's got me just right there if I wasn't in the lead, but I'm really, really close to it at this point. A couple pockets later, I pull into real short, I mean, just straight down walls on the sides, and I ease into the back of it. There's one dock off on the side, and as I'm getting close to the back of it, the world erupts.
Dude, if that's not a striper, I don't think it is. Get up over that rail. Dude, there's a whole school of bass in here. I mean, a school of them. Oh my goodness.
I mean, fish just start going everywhere, busting big old shad back there. I fire my toad in, it hits the water, turn the reel handle, boom, catch one.
This is what you dream about finding right here.
That little pocket where those fish were schooling in, if you threw the same thing in there more than like 5 or 6 times, other than a wacky worm, you just weren't gonna get any bites. The wacky rig was a good follow-up bait, and it was about making a good long cast, letting the bait sink, letting it settle, and just really kind of light shaking it is what was really important. But it was a 4 1/4 inch Bass Pro Sticko worm Sooner Run color. Had it on 8-pound XPS fluorocarbon with a 10-pound main line. The Bass Pro Hyper Braid is what I was throwing that on, and a 7-1 medium action Bass Pro Platinum rod and a Johnny Morse Platinum spinning reel. It was really important to rotate through those baits. You know, those fish are in a little confined area. They see everything that hits the water, and if they get too much of a look at it, they're just not gonna bite.
Yes!
That last hour or so, Sprague come on from nowhere, it seemed like, in that third period. As soon as we got started and got to within ounces of me, Greg is catching nothing but giants, it seems like. These guys are just breathing down my neck, and every time I catch one, you know, they're right behind me catching another one, all the way until like the last 30 minutes.
Man, do I stay or do I run somewhere else? Come on, fish, I need another bite.
It was the most stressful 30 minutes that I think I've ever fished in my life.
Line's out, that's the end of the round.
Lord, let it stay, let it stay, let it stay.
I've done all I could do. Man, I've done all I could do, and just, oh, what a day.
Oh, dude, that feels so good.
That little pocket, man, that was my saving grace in that period. But, man, it was just an incredible, incredible day, and just so thankful that this ended up the way that it did.